Hey everybody, welcome back. NHBA Podcast. I'm your host, Mitch Gould. Episode 5, Part 2, as we cover the UKC National Championship. Want to thank our sponsor, Purina Pro Plan Dog Food. Find out what top nutrition can do for your hounds today. On this episode, we're going to have our Grand National winner from the Nationals, Trever McQuain, and we're going to take a look at the storied career of 3MC Chief. So stick around, we got some good stuff for you. Okay, everybody, I'd like to welcome Trever McQuain, 3MC Kennels, onto the show. How are you, Trever?
Good. How are you?
I'm good, man. I am tired of the heat already, running baby rabbits, but hey, it's better than sitting at home, I guess.
Yeah, I haven't. It's hot when I walk out. I haven't turned dogs loose. We've been watching nephews and nieces play ball, and that's about what we've done.
That's right. So we're recording this early July. We've had a couple months to soak in the UKC Nationals from 2023 back in Zanesville, Ohio in April. Trever and I'm going to say this name one time, Trever, because I don't have enough air to get it all out in one breath. Trever was able to be our UKC Grand National Champion this year with now National Grand Hunting Beagle Champion, World Hunting Beagle Champion, Performance Pack Champion, Grand Hunting Beagle Champion, UKC Hall of Fame, Grand Champion, NHBA Hall of Fame, 3MC TNT Chief. Let me get my breath, buddy. Somebody commented on.
I won't be filling that out too many times.
Yeah, somebody said on the comment section there on the page if there was enough room for more letters, and I thought, well, he was actually making a joke, but literally, if I type in a few more letters on this computer, it makes it go to the next line. So no, he doesn't have much more room. So, buddy, let me ask you: when you hear me say that, you had a couple months to reflect. What do you think? What comes to mind when you hear that? What's the first? What do you think about?
I'm proud. How proud I am of the dog, I guess.
I'm sure, man. Folks, when you heard me say that, and you're probably soaking in all of those titles, which we'll get into in a second. A little bit about Trever, and I'm not going to make you go back through that, your history, Trever. I'm going to kind of gear this towards you and Chief today. But folks, if you go back on one of our early episodes, we had Trever on for the Clash win, and he gave us some information about his time in Biggles and some of that history stuff that's pretty interesting. So I'm going to refer you back there to get Trevor's background and kind of the history of 3MC Kennel. Because today we're just going to focus on this special hound Chief and what he's accomplished. So when I break this title down, the National Grand Hunting Beagle Champion, this will be for some folks that maybe not know what all those mean. That's our dog that goes out and wins grands. They get that title for winning grands at the UKC Nationals. Then, of course, you have our World Hunting Beagle Champion title, which there's one UKC World Champion crowned per year. I want to say Chief would have been what had he been, Trever? The 20th, the 19th, maybe?
Started in 2000, right?
Yep.
Would have been 18.
Okay, so he'd been the 18th World Champion. He's also a Performance Pack Champion, and those of you may not know what that means. That's That's another format UKC. Well, I think they maybe still have it, but there's not many of them around anymore. That was a pack trial style format with judges following the dogs, similar to some other pack trial formats you may have heard. Then you have our traditional Grand Hunting Beagle Champion title, which as of today is what, Trevor, 13 cast wins to become a Grand Hunting Beagle Champion?
Yeah. Yep.
And then you have UKC Hall of Fame. Now this is, let me get this number right. So to become UKC Hall of Fame, it's based on number of cast wins. And what, do you know what that exact number is? I seem to always get it wrong.
I do not. It's five to become a champion, 8 more to be a grand, and then I think it's 5 per steps up through the grands, I think.
I want to say, somebody will correct me in the comments so when they hear this, if they would like, but I want to say it's like 38 maybe. Does that sound right?
That sounds right.
So that's your UKC Hall of Fame. Now, Trevor, you get picked on a lot for being a big-time showman when they see your other dog's pictures, Kane. But Chief's a grand champion on the bench as well.
Yeah.
So you're just a versatile guy. You are a showman in denial, aren't you?
Yes. I probably more Tracy than myself, but any of the pictures you see, our dogs aren't the best cooperative on the bench.
I hear you. Well, he is actually a very well-built dog, all jokes aside, when I've looked at him. And then you got your NHBA Hall of Fame, which he went in, it was last year, right?
Yeah, 2 years ago, I guess. I think him and Hailstorm went in together.
That's right. So he went in as NHBA Hall of Fame. And then, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 titles on a dog. And what's his date of birth?
Late November of 14.
So basically from 14 to 23, his career is now, was he 8 or 9 when he won nationals this year?
8. He'll be 9 this November.
Gotcha. So I'm just going to say it, Trevor, when we started this podcast and I was kicking around, the kind of my vision for what it would look like, I just real quickly fell back on that NHBA seal. And the original mission of the NHBA had a lot to do with recognizing hound achievement and their houndsmen. And that's kind of what we're doing here today. And we're kind of showcasing the Nationals this episode 5, part 1, 2, and 3. And, I watch a lot of sports. I don't know how much you watch, but if you watch NFL Network or NBA Today or some of these shows, there's always this conversation like you'll hear them talking about, hey, who's the GOAT? What's the GOAT of in the history of basketball? Greatest of all time, the GOAT. And I have to think if we were having a discussion of the GOAT in Bigling, there's several dogs that come to mind, but definitely 110% Chief would be in that conversation. So I know you want to be humble, but we are going to go through some of his highlights of his career. Now it's my understanding you are going to retire him, Trevor, or do you change your mind again?
No, I think I couldn't think of a better way for him to go out and be done. I actually thought he was done before Nationals, but
yeah, we'll get into that too. So I just want to go through some highlights here, folks, for you on this dog. And right off the top, before I go down some of these highlights, we're talking about a dog that in this time period is probably over 100 cast wins in his career, just based simply off of what he's placed and where he's finished, which is pretty impressive. If there's any dog with more, that'd be hard to imagine a dog with more cast wins in their career. But right off the top, Trevor, we got World Hunt winner 2018. Before I get into the rest of these, that's probably a pretty special one to you.
It was it with the year before, I guess, with Kane when we won. That was a pup that we had bought from Brian Mead. But to do it with one that you owned the sire and dam and had was born at the house, raised at the house, trained at the house, to do that was
a little different.
That meant a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I was following from the house that weekend, and I had messaged with Josh a little bit. I was definitely, Chief definitely broke my heart that day, not gonna lie. Well deserved. I'd like to sing that cast. It sounded like a good cast. So
it was.
Go ahead.
It was with, two of us had went up and down. Well, three of us that were in that cast had went up and down the road a lot together, even.
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely. So that's 2018. I go back through. He's also a top 10 in 2020 in the world, 5th place. We just mentioned he won Grands this past year. Again, Chief got to break our heart a little bit. He's your 2023 Grand National Champion. He goes 4th place at Grands the year before, so he's in the finals of Grands the year before, and he's your West Eliminator.
Yeah. Yep.
What is it? 2000. Trying to think of what year.
It was probably 21.
Yeah, I think you're right. He's your All-Star Series regional winner, and I believe he won that twice. He's your All-Star Series National All-Age Chase winner. So that's kind of your runoff, folks, if you wonder what that chase winner means. He's your 2nd place NHBA runoff in 2017. 2-time NHBA overall sectional winner. So I want to stop there for a minute on that one and just take a bite out of that, because you can't gloss over that right there. When I looked, doing my research and just kind of preparing for this segment, 2-time NHBA overall sectional series winner. So other formats might call that the Hound of the Year points race winner, something like that. There's a lot of rubber burned off your tires, Trever, and a lot of work went into that right there.
A couple of Toyota Tundras worth.
Yeah, that's a pretty neat accomplishment to win that twice. My guess is it'll be a while before we see somebody do that. Again, I'm thinking back to the All-Star Series. I'm thinking back to the Challenge Series days of another dog that may have won that type of thing twice, and I'm coming up blank on somebody that did. There might have been somebody that did, but that's a pretty special accomplishment in my opinion. I believe that NHBA points race, that sectional series, is a heck of a bar in the sport. I think it's as high a bar as any Big 5 win, in my opinion.
It is. Cody, Braden, you guys touched on it there an episode or two back. This isn't just go run in March and April, or just go run, when running is good. These sectionals, you've got to be at who knows what state, and the dog's got to be able to handle the traveling that I think people way overlook. Traveling puts a lot of stress on the dog, as far as I'm concerned. Then to be able to go perform and run a different state, different weather all year long, it takes a capable dog.
Yeah, absolutely. And not only does the dog need to be capable, but I've seen capable dogs that don't travel well. Dogs got to be pretty tough-minded to get involved in these points races and win it. Is kind of way I always looked at it. You're putting your what town do you live closest to? Is it Kim Bolton, Trever?
Yeah, Kim Bolton, Cambridge, in between those two, kind of.
So for our audience that's been to Cumberland, that's just a little bit north of there?
Just about a half hour south.
Yeah. So, to win this points race twice, that means you left your house and the comfort of Chief sleeping in his own box, two years on the road. You know, you're putting that dog in the box. You're driving to wherever, 4, 5, 6 hours away sometimes. And you're going to run against those dogs that got to sleep in their box. You're going to run at their spots that they might get, ran some. And the dog's got to go out and perform. And it shows me, and I'm going to ask you a little bit about this in a minute, but Chief, one of his best traits, if I were to guess, has to be his consistency to win that twice.
Yeah, it's not fun going a couple weekends in a row, like you said, 4, 5, 6 hours away. You don't win a cast all weekend. You load back up and drive that back home and completely empty-handed. Yeah. You can't do that too many times with a dog that's not fairly consistent in getting something, or a lot of the joy. It's like letting the air out of a balloon.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And before we move on from this little part here, one thing I always liked about trying to win a points race, Trever, was just getting out and meeting new people, and you make some friendships with folks across the country you may not have even known if you hadn't have been in that NHBA points race.
That's absolutely, that is correct. I mean, some people we consider, my entire family consider very good friends at this point in time. Without the dogs, we don't even meet them.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Some good people out there for sure. So we go down here. Next thing I want to look at, and oh, by the way, he was third place in the sectional series another year, so he's another top 8 finish. Qualifies for the Clash of Champions twice, the 32 finalists, and that's I guess that would have been a 7, 8-year-old.
Yeah.
And then I see here. Okay, I didn't know this actually, Trevor. So is that correct that he was top 10 in the Performance Pack World Championship?
Yeah.
And top 5 at the Performance Pack Nationals?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. That's something I learned actually with doing this. So, that's interesting to me. Those that may not know that format, and I talked about it a minute ago, it's a pack trial style. You're scoring checks on recoveries, and they do score jumps and strikes, I believe, in lines, but it is really built for that dog that can keep the track going and be clean. Would that be an accurate description, Trevor?
Yeah, they try to score basically the entire track. I mean, that was the point of it with judges running behind. They, if a dog made a turn and got everybody going the right way again, they're getting credit for it.
Right. So that's pretty neat. A dog that was able to be so successful, and Hunting Beagle also was that successful in the Performance Pack when that was up and running. And I'm not even going to get into Chief's state hunts, Trevor. There's a pile of state hunt wins that he had in his career, state titles and state wins. So I guess I want to ask you, when I'm going over that list, what would be your, and I guess maybe we exclude the world or maybe not, but what's your favorite or what are you most proud of Chief on that list there?
Probably looking at it now. I'd have been hard pressed to say anything other than the World Hunt at any point in time. And part of that World Hunt is there's not a whole lot of dogs that you pick out. Look, every World Hunt you go to, taking dogs into consideration, location of the hunt into consideration. There's always a handful of dogs that are favored, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like sports sometimes, I guess. It doesn't always pan out that way. So I know Chief didn't feel pressure, but I had felt pressure because that was a dog that, was supposed to perform at a high level.
Right.
And did. That was part of what made that World Hunt. And Josh and Alan both being in that cast also.
Absolutely. And he would have been coming into his prime in 2018, so you probably knew, this is the time.
Yeah, he the year in Tennessee, he actually I even told them before we went to Mountain City, Tennessee, that, man, he looked good. And I ended up scratching him in the first round. I don't know if a female was coming in heat, going out of heat, whatever, but I ended up scratching him, and that was probably the best he'd ever looked in his life.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah, it's hard not to pick the World Hunt, I'm sure. Any other of those that stands out in your mind? We're going to get into this year's grands here in a second.
Looking back at it now, I mean, just the consistency and longevity of what this dog has been able to do. If I was loading up and somebody told me they'd pay $1,000 entry fee right now to go to any hunt, and I just had to walk up there and grab a dog out of the kennel, I'd probably still grab him.
Still grabbing him. Yep. Pretty impressive. Pretty impressive list, bud. So, after we got through that tremendous resume here, as a reproducer, Chief has now had pups place in the top 10 at the World and Nationals. So, as a reproducer, he's coming on as well.
Yeah, we haven't bred a whole lot of females. Actually, I'd say there's way more pups of his that haven't or will not see a field trial ever in their life. A lot of the gun hunters around here, that's where most of our pups end up going.
Yeah. Have you seen enough of his pups, at their age now to kind of get a gear on what he's throwing? Does he seem to be throwing some of his similar traits to himself? And I want to get into that also. But
yeah, I haven't. Hammer is probably the closest thing to himself that he's thrown.
Mm-hmm.
But they all seem to hunt very, very well. And
Hammer was
to me, that's very important.
Was Hammer? He was top 10 at the World, I think, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, and he's a Chief dog. And was he a top 8 dog in the sectional as well?
Yes, he was last year. Yeah,
gotcha.
2 years ago, I guess.
Gotcha. So there's some reproducing information for our listeners as well. Do you have him at public stud, Trever?
Yeah, I don't do the advertising because really the breeding thing is not. I don't find too much excitement in that.
I gotcha.
But we have. I mean, if people call, yeah, we haven't turned too many down.
Okay.
As far as breeding to him.
Gotcha. So I just want to ask you about Chief the dog, and I always kind of laugh, when I watch a dog, like if it's the finals of a big hunt or something, and you look at that dog, they just think, hey, Dad's running with his buddies today, They don't even know they're in a big hunt. I do think some dogs sense the competitiveness, but, what about Chief as a dog? Let's talk about his traits and things that make him Chief. What does he hang his hat on? And even what's some things that you've had to work with him on over time?
Like I said, the consistency part of it, I mean, since he started, now if Corey was on this, Corey would say that I stole Chief from him when Chief was about 1.5 years old. I would get the dogs ready, and I tried to make sure Corey had a dog, Josh had a dog, because they don't get a chance to run near as much. So I would get dogs ready, and then they didn't have to worry about it. That was the dog they were running. And Chief at about 1.5 years old, I decided that that was probably the dog that I wanted to take and run. And just from an early age, I mean, he really never got rattled, jumped plenty of rabbits. He wasn't going to get yanked around, was never going to be too far from a point of loss, as far as keeping the track going. And hey, at times that was, actually that hindered him at times, especially as he got a little older, and lost a little foot. It was a big difference when a dog would grab it, out there 50 yards in front of him. I really didn't carry when he was 3, 4, 5 years old, but
right,
it makes a little difference when they get 7, 8 years old here.
Right. So has he always? Everybody that I've talked to, and oddly enough, I've never gotten to see Chief run. But I can remember, I don't know, it's probably 2018 during that World Hunt run, and I was talking to maybe it was Derek Bowen or Tim or Cody or somebody, but I said, "Hey, what's that dog like?" And every person had the same answer. That's a rabbit dog. He is a rabbit dog. So has he had? You think that's a fair description? That he is he's what you'd want to take rabbit hunting.
Yes, absolutely. And I mean, look, there's probably a lot of people that would say Kane is a better dog than what Chief is. But if I had my preference to design a rabbit dog, I mean, it would be Chief. As far as what I want to take out and go rabbit hunt every day.
Mm-hmm.
That's the dog that I would design pretty much.
Mm-hmm. Did he have that jump ability and hunt, that hard hunt from a young age?
Yeah, he did. He probably jumps as many rabbits now as what he did when he was a pup. Maybe a little more now. Mm-hmm. He went through a little spell where I don't know. He hasn't taken too many minuses his entire life, by himself. Mm-hmm. But he went through a little spell, and the 2018 World Finals was a prime example of it. Man, if he opened his mouth, the rabbit absolutely was there, close. He wasn't going to cold trail 100 yards and find a rabbit, but he'd start giving you enough to get on the scorecard. And I knew before the rabbit was just absolutely jumped and blown out of the squat, Mm-hmm. And I'm not a super big fan of that, but he almost always, got the rabbit worked up. So if there was something I would change, he'd probably be a little hotter nosed dog than what he is even.
I've heard he's got a pretty big nose. From what I've heard.
He does. I mean, he wintertime, out gun hunting, whatever, snow, ice, whatever. He can keep a track going.
Gotcha. So where's some of these traits come from in Chief that we're talking about? So if you would, share with our listeners, Trever, what he's out of.
He is out of a female that was named 3MC Chloe. This is probably not even a believable story, but it is a true story. We bought her as a pup. I say a pup. She was probably 10 months old. Was too slow for what the guys that were running ARHA wanted to do. And then we went and bought from Mel Pollock and the McVeys, TNT's Cooperstown, which was his sire. And that was Chief's litter was the second cross we had ever made.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And that's what we ended up with. Cooper always ran pretty. He was super fast, but would always run pretty quiet till he got later in life, and we took him up and ran hare in Maine. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, we came back with a brand new dog. I said, "Boy, I wish I'd have known to do this when you were 2 years old." Because literally we it felt like we brought a brand new toy back from Maine.
Really?
I don't know what it was with the hair, but he all of a sudden decided he would bark about 5 times more than what he did before we took him.
What? That's interesting. Do you think just the extra scent of the hair just got him fired up, or?
I don't know. I mean, he was probably, I'm going to say he was 6, 7 years old, when we did that.
Huh. That's interesting. And
so I'd have loved to have had that dog at 2 years old coming back from Maine.
I'm sure.
But that was kind of why we, he wasn't. That's why Chief Sire was not pushed in hunts many. It's like, man, I know you got that check, but
a little too tight.
I really can't score you for it here.
Gotcha. I got his pedigree. Some of his pedigree pulled up, Trever. I know some of our listeners, they like this information. So I go back, Chief's daddy, as you mentioned, is Cooper, who's out of Green Bay Butkus, and High Bar's Happy Jenny. And Chloe was Rhodes Royal Buck and Waldong Valley Jill. Does that sound right?
Yep.
Waldong Valley, I've heard of that. Those are a lot of ARHA dogs, I believe.
Yeah, the Rhodes Roebuck and the bottom side of that pedigree both were pretty much exclusively ARHA dogs. Ran in ARHA, I believe.
Yeah, pretty strong dogs from what I've been told.
I don't know. I like what they throw.
Been around a long time, if I remember right. The High Bars Happy Jenny, that dog there. Now, was that dog out of the Blitz dog? Do you know?
I think similar breeding back through there somewhere. I don't think Blitz actually shows up, but
maybe Blitz's sister, maybe.
Yeah, but it was similar breeding there.
Okay, yeah, which would be that Northern Michigan Hair Association, like Lake Ogama, Casey, and some of that.
Yeah.
Okay, well that's interesting. Yeah, interesting stuff. So there's some good information for folks on Chief's pedigree. Consistent rabbit dog, folks, and I think that's a good segue to what you and I talk about frequently is, what's it take to win? What's it take to win? And I think you could say this about any format. If you've got a dog that's a consistent rabbit dog that you would love to take rabbit hunting, that dog's there's a format for that dog to win in.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And, particularly in our format, UKC Hound and Hunter, I think there's a huge misconception out there that when I talk to different people that, oh yeah, you just got to have this blazing fast dog. You guys score lines, and you just got to. That's not really, the dog has to be accurate, to win consistently. I mean, you might get lucky here and there with a dog that's not consistent on the line, but dog's got to be able to run the rabbit. Would you agree?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, the mental state of the dog, even. I mean, just not getting yanked around when you have a dog that's a little looser in there. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's several situations that present themselves that, you stay running the track and mm-hmm. They're out there at 75 yards. I mean, you've got a chance to hammer their eyes shut with 100 by yourself also.
Exactly. And for whatever reason, I swear, I've always laughed. It seems like when we call a line, they bobble before the line 50% of the time, it seems like.
Yeah.
It just seems to go that way a lot. So I would say, if you look, I've seen some of Chief's scorecards, and he has his share of first lines, but it's not like he has every first line. So, look at all that he's won. He's jumping rabbits, big nose, but not getting in trouble, and running the line. Pressuring dogs. I would say, if I had to guess, I would say he pressures a lot of dogs into missing lines. Would be my guess.
He at a younger age. I mean, he had the foot to run in front, and was accurate.
Yeah.
Now I laugh. I said, well, it's a good thing he can still jump rabbits because as he's gotten older, those first strikes meant a lot more to him than they used to.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So let's get into nationals, Trevor. The final title is what I got in my notes here. The final title for Chief was to get this Grand National Championship, and I see a picture here I have pulled up. It's you and the little one and your wife. You look pretty happy there.
Yeah, they, Tracy had Sammy in the vehicle there during the finals, had came, and I thought that was pretty cool for as special and what the dog has meant to us. It was pretty cool to me to Tracy also.
Yeah.
To get to put that one last title on that dog and Sammy get to be in a picture with us.
Absolutely. And those of you that have been around know that, Tracy, she's been with you the whole way, and your brothers, and I say all the time, if you're going to be a competitive dog man, you better have a wife that's supportive of it, or you're in trouble.
That is probably the greatest blessing. I mean, I've told everybody that's asked. I said, look, if it wasn't for her hopping in this truck with me and going and enjoying it, we wouldn't have been up and down the road near as much as what we were.
Exactly. That's exactly right. So I remember talking to you before nationals, and I don't know if was you planning on even running Chief at nationals?
No,
So
was not.
tell us what happened there. How does that pretty fortuitous that worked out? But so what went into that?
Well, our daughter was born February 7th. Little did I know that something that small could take up that much time. There was not a whole lot of time, and everybody knows I'm very picky on dogs, probably too picky to a fault, but that's just me, I guess. And a good friend of ours, Jeff Duvall, said, hey, if you want to get these dogs ready for the clash, I've got some time and I will run them. I said, man, that would be awesome, because I've already figured out I have no time to do anything other than work and be dad right now. So Jeff Duvall actually took the dogs that were ready for the clash, or that we had qualified for the clash for the regionals, and he had basically did all of the running of those dogs. I didn't get to do much at all.
Man, where do you get a friend like that? Is there any place to go find one of those? Because I think everybody needs.
I don't think they're for sale anywhere. But really and truly, I mean, Jeff deserves all the credit for keeping the dogs, in shape to even. If it wasn't for him, I don't even know if I'd have went to the regionals.
Wow.
Because we'd have been talking months that the dogs hadn't been turned loose. If he wouldn't have taken them. And anyways, he had told me, Chief looks decent. This dog looks good. He'd give me a report every day when he brought the dogs back to the house. And then he had said, Chief, he's losing a gear or two. You can just tell. And, him and Kane are already old dogs. So,
yeah,
we're talking 4 or 5 miles at the most. And they were coming back, loading up, going back to the house. Not that they were out of gas, but there's no sense in running a tank on a dog that old clear down to E.
Right.
So anyways, Chief won a cast at the regionals. Tucker won a cast at the regionals. And once again, I still don't have time to run dogs. And I said, well, I guess we'll focus on those two to have a chance to run for the $10,000. And, we'll just take these younger dogs for nationals. Well, nationals rolled around. Chief looked good, looked decent, in the first round of the 32 for the clash.
Mm-hmm.
Things just didn't go his way, and I thought, dang, the dog looked good, but just didn't work out. You know how it goes sometimes.
Sure.
And my wife's cast was kind of the same. So I went, I guess that was Thursday. Friday we went to nationals, and man, my brother came back. I came back. I said, man, I'm not mad at a dog. We just can't buy a cast win.
Mm-hmm.
The dogs have looked good.
Yeah.
So Saturday morning, hey, we drove back and forth from Zanesville. So we're talking getting home 11 o'clock and getting back up at 3 to head back over to Zanesville. And I told Tracy, I said, man, I'm mind boggled. I don't even know what dog to walk out and grab out of the kennel this morning. I mean, they've all looked good, but we just can't buy a cast win. She said, I'll just go grab Chief. I said, no. I said the clash was it for him. He's done. He doesn't even need to see another hunt. She said, well, you're going to be grouchy no matter what dog you take, and you'll be the least grouchy if you take him and something happens. So, she said, just go get him. He might surprise you.
Huh.
And, that's how Chief even ended up getting to run a cast at nationals.
Really?
And boy, that was good advice.
Man, you better take Tracy out for dinner or something. That's
yeah. Yeah.
Wow. That's pretty cool, man. Something I want to back up what to our listeners, if you listen to what Trever said there, if you're going to get into competition trials, you need a little bit of fortitude. And here's why. Here's Chief, one of the greatest dogs of all time, one of the most titled dogs of all time. And you notice he didn't win every cast. And I think that's something, Trever, everybody wants to win, but I don't care if you have the best dog in the world, even they don't win all the time.
Not even a chance for him to win all the time. I mean, it's not going to happen.
And I think guys coming into the sport, that's probably that's some good advice right there. Is you're going to lose plenty, and there's nothing wrong with that. Even the best dogs don't win all the time. So, anyways, so Tracy saves the day. We're just going to call it. And it's before daylight. You throw Chief in the truck.
Yep. We went, and I always say, I mean, look, even now, if I went out and just told him that he was not going to another field trial, I think he'd bite me. I mean, he's one of those dogs you can tell when you go to load him up. I mean, he loves it. Loves it. He's always, I truly believe the dog enjoys going to the competition hunts even. Because about the time you take him and tie him out and all those trucks and all those dogs are there, a dog that has done it as much as he has knows exactly what's going on.
I do think there are some dogs that they enjoy looking around and competing against new meat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, oh man, you get them out on the tailgate and they look around and see these different dogs, and I think they sense the competitive nature, inside of them, and so I think there is something to that with some dogs. They don't know exactly why they're doing it; they just know they're happy to be doing it.
And I laugh. I mean, I don't know if Chief realized it or not, but he's tied out on the tailgate or on the tie out, and he's looking around and probably running against a grand pup to what he started out running against.
Huh. That is interesting. So at Nationals, folks, so what would have happened there is he enters Chief, and then there's essentially 4 rounds. And I'm not going to get too much into this because we went over this in that part 1, but just to remind everybody. So a dog can hunt in 2 of the 4 hunts, and obviously Chief would have been running at Nationals against just other Grand Hunting Beagle champions. So it's the best, division. And the dogs with, if you're a 2-day cast winner, you're going to move on to Sunday in the top 16 runoff to crown your national champion. And they do that for all 5 divisions, your junior, registered champion, and grand. And the other 16 is made up of single cast winners based on score. So I think is that a pretty good summary, Trevor?
Yeah.
So
yeah, pretty good.
So you show up there. Did you run? So just take us through how you got him in the 16, and you don't have to give us every strike and line on the card, but just tell us how he makes the 16.
He actually made it with a single cast win.
Okay.
We went out in the morning, and I don't know if we had the highest score Saturday morning or not, but definitely had one of them. All 4 dogs were between 8 and I'm going to say 850.
Oh, nice.
I mean, or between 850 and 900, somewhere in there. All 4 dogs in our cast, we ran rabbits the absolute entire time, even during timeout, catching dogs. And here I am. Alan Newby was in the cast, Joey Peterson, and Chuck Kearns. And I'm going, hey, man, I just brought an ancient artifact out here to run, and I don't know that this is going to bode very well for me to go back out in the heat in the afternoon round with this dog.
Gotcha.
And Newby just laughed. Newby said, he's done it a million times. He'll be all right. And then he went out in the afternoon and won that cast, and it was enough to get into the 16. And then he won the, I guess, another little funny story. I mean, people think I'm joking, but I'm really not. Again, our baby was born in February, so most people would have had the doors off of the dog houses by now, but I hadn't at this point in time.
Mm-hmm.
I walked out Sunday morning. I think the dog went almost 11 miles Saturday between the 2 casts. And I said, well, he got in, but he might not be able to move tomorrow morning for the semifinals. I walked out, called for him a few times, no movement. I literally had to go swing that door open, smack him in the hind end 3 times before he ever even woke up out of his doghouse to load up to go to Zanesville Sunday morning. I said, "Oh, this ought to be a treat." But evidently he got stretched out. He did all right.
So he won his afternoon cast to get in, or his morning cast.
His afternoon cast.
So he wins his afternoon cast to get into the 16. Obviously, like you said, an older dog going to be tight. Ran 2 rounds, and then in the 16, folks, on Sunday, all non-hunting judges, typical elimination style to get to that final cast, and then your to crown your national champion. In this case, be the grand national champion. So tell us about that 16. Give us a little bit detail maybe on how that first that semi went.
Well, the semis, it went. We didn't have much. The dogs were having we were having a hard time getting the dogs to cooperate with where we wanted them to hunt.
Mm-hmm.
And then they had. We did finally. They got a rabbit jumped, and man, I think I took third strike, third or fourth line, and we tried to, not a good start, but hey, honestly, I was tickled to death. Whatever, it didn't matter what he did, really.
Sure.
I was tickled to death. Knew he was sore. Knew he was tired. We ended up going down to. It was turkey season for us as well. Here, I don't know if people realize that, but
yeah, we actually ran into a turkey hunter in one of my casts.
Yeah, well, where I wanted to go originally, there was a turkey hunter there, so we went on down the road and did that spot. Well, the turkey hunter had left, so I said, "We've got, I don't know what was left, 16 minutes maybe or something." I said, "We can go down there. That's where I wanted to go originally, anyways." I had told everybody that before we turned loose. So we went down there, and he ends up taking a first strike and a produced track. We had, I don't know, I'm going to say 5 minutes left after we caught him, turned him loose, and he took another first strike and a second line and ended up coming back and winning the cast. So in the semifinals.
So once again, hunt and jump got it done.
Yeah, it did. I mean, it did for him.
Yeah.
That round for sure.
And that's something I really liked. And again, no format's perfect. I'm not saying this is not what I'm trying to say, but that's one thing I really like about this format is, we expect dogs to go find a rabbit, and I would say more times than not, and it obviously don't work out this way all the time. I mean, they're dogs, but I think we do a pretty good job of rewarding dogs that'll go find a rabbit.
Yeah, that's I mean, that's a 25-point advantage, with the first strike. So.
Yep. Absolutely. And to our listeners, that'd be a 50-point difference from third and fourth. So when Chief locks in those 2 jumps there at the end of that cast, he's basically gaining 25 and 50, and that's a pretty fitting way to go on to the finals. So, final cast. What are you thinking going to that final cast, Trevor? Do you think he's got anything left, or was he looking loose or tight, or?
Well, the sad thing was it took us a little bit, from catching dogs and moving, and we were on the other side of the lake, so I knew that if the other semifinal casts were done, they were listening to our race. They couldn't see anything, but they could hear everything that was going on in our cast. And man, I bet they ran. They were pounding a rabbit probably another, I'm going to say probably 10, 15 minutes after the cast was done. And again, here I am sitting going, this is the last thing that this dog needs.
Right.
Any extra running. So I just kind of chuckled as we drove over to where we were going to run the finals, and he was pretty much curled up in the ball in the back of the dog box when we got out of there.
Yeah. So you're in the finals. You and Chief are in the finals. That we have a 4-dog final, folks. And in that final cast, so your competition for the finals was Owen D'Augustine with Breeze. And correct me if I get this wrong. Is that right, Trevor, for Owen?
Yeah, that's correct. Yep.
You had Derek Bowen running Heat 'em Up Superstar for Cody and Jason. And then the fourth dog in that cast was
Joe Merritt with Emerald Blue.
Joe Merritt with Emerald Blue. So we had Ohio dog, 2 West Virginia dogs, and an Indiana dog. And some good dogs there. Yeah, you had some competition for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I had not ran with Breeze up to that point, but I had ran with the other 2 dogs plenty.
Yeah.
To know what the dog was. I was just hoping I had dog left.
Yeah.
in my dog box.
So you got three females and a male in our national final. I believe Donnie Yant served as our non-hunting judge, and who was the head judge of that?
Donnie Yant, I believe, was the head judge, and then Matt Turner was with them.
Gotcha. So let's just go through that cast, Trevor. I know you're thinking my dog's he's tired, he's sore, but take us off the lead here. How did he get it done?
Well, we had saved that spot. It was actually the spot that we had all those dogs had scored over 800 Saturday morning.
Mm-hmm.
It was actually a spot we were going to run the World Finals the first year that it was in Cumberland, and plenty of rabbits, all that. But we got out, and I don't know. We were probably the first rabbit was jumped. I don't even know if we were 3 minutes into it. Emmy struck. Star took second strike. And then I don't know how third and fourth went, but they end up circling that rabbit. It gets produced. Donnie Yant watched them put it in a hole.
Mm-hmm.
The dogs actually jumped another rabbit after they put that one down, but we ended up catching the dogs. They were headed out towards the road in an area that we did not need to be.
Mm-hmm.
So then we moved, and Chief ended up taking a first strike. Star took second strike. The other 2 took third and fourth. Rabbit goes across the road, I believe, before the third and fourth struck dogs were even struck in, I think.
Mm-hmm.
We got a line called on that rabbit. Of course, here's the dog I'm talking about being consistent. All 4 dogs bobble it. Don't score the line. Chief ended up getting the recovery on it where the track had blown up, and they run it right down into a pipe. And then
let me get this. I'm kind of keeping track here. So you had a strike in a third or fourth. The Superstar has a second and a second, and then you get a check.
Yep.
So you are now up 20 points after this rabbit.
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead.
Yep. We end up catching the dogs. End up moving. Put them in the same exact spot that we had about 7 lines called the morning before. Dogs do what they're supposed to do, even split up. We had dogs hunting in, I believe, every direction. Couldn't really come up with it. Obviously, I knew what the score was. I think everybody out there knew what the score was. I said, hey, we can move,
very close.
We can move up by the house. We can do whatever. I mean, they're where they need to be.
How much time do you think left right about then?
I'm not sure how much time was left when we caught them on the second one.
Okay.
But I do know that, they'd say, hey, do you guys want to catch them? And there'd be a dog. No, my dog's, 100 or however far off this way. Well, where's your dog? Well, my dog's 150 over this way. No, the dogs never did filter back in where it was like, okay, let's catch them and move.
Well, they're all, that's honestly, I'll just say this real quick, Trevor. Grand National Final, I expect those dogs to be out hunting hard,
Yeah.
So that's good.
Yep. They were out. So our head judge, Donnie, just went ahead and made an executive decision. I don't remember if there was like 7 or 11 minutes left in the cast. Said, catch all the dogs wherever they're at. We're going to get them all together. We're going to move and recast here.
Mm-hmm.
try to get another rabbit.
How many
Well,
minutes? How many minutes do you say?
there was, well, I think 7 or 11
Okay.
minutes left in the cast.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Before we ever get to the dogs, two of them have a rabbit jump.
Oh man.
uh, Naturally. So we get all the dogs caught. We move, turn the dogs loose. Obviously, I know the score, and Chief is this close at this point in time. 2 minutes seems like 47. So
Oh, for sure.
when you're in the lead,
So right there before you guys turn loose for that final bit, Chiefs up 20 points, and you're out fooling me. I'll guarantee you was looking at that watch. I'm sure. I know I would have been.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I knew exactly what time we turned loose. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, I mean the heart's pounding. You're this close to a national title.
And I mean it wasn't. I won't even say at that point in time it was even nerves. I thought, holy smokes, this old dog might actually do this.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the dogs hunted around an edge, and the hunt runs out. And when we go to get the dogs are just absolutely pounding a rabbit.
Oh my gosh.
And they got to run for, I bet they ran for another 20 minutes. I know would have never went into a check. Nothing.
Wow.
So it was one of those deals that they weren't where the rabbits weren't really where they were supposed to be, I guess, or the dogs just were not running into them. But
wow, that's a tight cast, man, with some really good dogs. And yeah, I guarantee you, when you were going to catch that quote unquote old dog, you were pretty proud of him, man.
yeah, I was. I was.
That's pretty awesome.
I actually that was about the point in time that before I ever had him caught, I thought, well, this was your last field trial, buddy. So you just go ahead and keep running if that's what they're going to do, and enjoy it.
That's right. So for our listeners, first place would have been 3MC Chief in the Grands, as we're talking here. Runner-up would have been Heat 'em Up Superstar. Third was Owen third or Emmy third?
I think Emmy was third, I believe, because Emmy had that first strike.
The JJ's Emerald Blue would have been third, and then D'Agostino's Breeze, Cold Winter Breeze, would have been fourth. I think I got that.
Yeah, Emmy went into a check
Gotcha.
on that first rabbit.
Okay.
And then got her own recovery, so the tiebreaker, I believe, between those two would have been Emmy had 20 more minus on the scorecard than Superstar.
Gotcha. So all the dogs pretty much, 1 through 3 was a 20-point difference. And
yeah.
So before we go on here, just on behalf of the NHBA, congrats to everybody that made the finals or the 16. That's a great accomplishment in of itself. So congrats to those folks as well. So Trever, you're driving back. You get that awesome picture. If you don't have that one framed, you should frame it with your family, and just capping off a storybook ending for Chief there.
Yeah, that was nice, and I'm sure Tracy has it, but with all Sammy's stuff right now, it's hard to tell what pictures or anything else.
Well, one thing that's definitely going to happen is Sammy's pictures will take up space, and the dog pictures will be the dog pictures will be in a back seat from now on. I can promise you. So.
Yeah, I just a little side note here. The World Hunts, whatever, I always laughed. If we brought the trophies home, I'd set them in the house, and literally by the next morning they were already upstairs. That nowhere to be seen until you move or go upstairs to get something.
Yeah.
And Chiefs is still sitting there, and I haven't had the heart to ask Tracy yet if she's doing that for me or just because Sammy has so much stuff, it really doesn't matter now.
Yeah, that's right. So we're winding down here, Trever. Chief's retired. I'm sure you got some crosses planned for Chief in house for breeding.
Yep.
And I'm just thinking here something that would be something I'd like to get some input from you. Coming from a guy that's had tremendous success in the sport, I'd like for you to maybe tell our listeners, what's some advice you would give to somebody wanting to get into the sport or, just starting out? What's something you would, if you had to, say some good advice, what would it be?
The best thing is go to your first field trials with an open mind. The superstar you're seeing at home, if they go and have a hard time winning, doesn't necessarily mean anything about the dog necessarily. Like we talked earlier, dogs travel differently. Some dogs travel very well. Some dogs traveling bothers them a lot.
Sure.
Being around different dogs changes a dog a lot. Scents, seasons, locations, all that plays an effect. Don't think just because you haven't had success maybe right at the beginning to give it up. I mean, go watch what is winning or the similar traits that are winning and kind of gauge it off of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's really good advice. Having an open mind and if you have an open mind, you're probably more likely to have fun too. You're not going to have as much pressure on yourself and your dog, and you're probably going to enjoy yourself.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, and it's better now even than when I started. And I haven't done this, long in comparison to many people out there, but it takes a while.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And we'll close down here with this, Trevor. And when I was a boy, there was an old guy at the Coon Club. Hackers Creek Coon Club was the name of the club, and my dad was a member. And he told me one time, he said, "You're in your lifetime," he said, "you'll be lucky and fortunate to own a special hound." And he always would say, he said, if you do this your whole life and live to be my age, and he was probably pushing 80, he said, if you stay at it, you'll be lucky to count them on one hand of special hounds. And I think you have would agree that Chief is a special hound and one of those that you could put on your list, Trevor.
Yeah, I believe so. I laugh about Kane. I guess maybe part of the reason Chief meant so much was that was the dog I was handling. Kane kind of got passed around, but truly I was blessed with a couple of them really at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely, and that doesn't happen by chance. I mean, there's some chance in it, you might say, but the reality is it's a lot of hard work as well, and you put the work in, and we're you can see the fruits of your labor here today on this show. And I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna take a deep breath, Trevor, so I can get this out one more time. So on behalf of the NHBA and myself personally, congratulations to Trevor, and now National Grand Hunting Beagle Champion, World Hunting Beagle Champion, Performance Pack Champion, Grand Hunting Beagle Champion, Hall of Fame, Grand Champion, NHBA Hall of Fame, 3MCTN Chief. Congratulations, buddy. And appreciate you going over this, and you're a humble guy, and I know a lot of people, don't like to do these kind of shows, but Chief deserves it. You deserved it. And I'm going to go ahead and just leave you with the last word, Trevor, and really appreciate you coming on.
Thanks, Mitch. I appreciate it. And NHBA for doing these podcasts. It's getting a lot of people to listen and spread the word here a little bit. I don't like to close out anything without bringing up NHBA. I believe that, it's one of the best, if not the best, Beagle organization out there right now.
Absolutely.
And it'd be nice if everybody listening to this would at least look into becoming a member if you're not, and continue to support it if you are.
Absolutely. Trevor, you have a good 4th of July, and we'll be seeing you soon.
All right. Thanks, Mitch. You too.
Well, folks, that's going to wrap up another episode of the NHBA podcast. Want to thank Trever for coming on, and once again, congratulations to him. Just to echo Trevor's thoughts there, folks, we'd love to have your membership. Come on, become an NHBA member. You can reach out to us on the National Hunting Beagle Association Facebook page. You can contact an NHBA officer. You can also contact Secretary Josh Ware. Your membership does so much, folks. We're always trying to look for ways to improve the sport of bigling. We're always trying to find ways to get more youth involved. With your money goes toward youth scholarships and youth events, and it's never been more important to get these kids involved. So come on board with us, become a member. We'd love to have you. And with that being said, I also want to thank you guys for listening. I appreciate you tuning in to each and every episode. And we'll be having part 3 out real soon, episode part 3. We had a little bit of technical difficulty there. But we're going to have, as I said before, we will have Jason and Angie Vandergriff on the podcast. And so that'll be coming out soon. Also want to remind everybody we're looking at doing some live shows coming up this summer. And we're going to also take a look at the new NHBA Hall of Fame format. So that's going to be it for today, and we'll be seeing you guys real soon. And just encourage everybody to have a wonderful and blessed day.